If I asked you what you're looking at, depending on who you are, you'd say it's the beginning of a technological revolution.
This will change medicine, it will change research, it will change everything.
Or the greatest displacer of jobs in history. Accused of being the biggest job killers are image generation apps like Stable Diffusion, Remini, and Dolly.
These image generators are going to put a lot of artists out of work.
But the king of them all is the AI app Midjourney.
The most popular image generator in the world.
From the crazy and weird photos of your favorite celebrities.
John Oliver in Victorian era dress. John Oliver as an amoeba viewed through a microscope. And John Oliver commanding a horde of elves to charge a potato.
To viral pictures of political and religious figures.
The photo that's fooling everyone. Pope Francis wearing a stylish white puffer jacket. Many are only learning now that it's a fake.
To being the thing that absolutely terrifies Hollywood.
Filmmaker and actor Tyler Perry is putting his $800 million expansion plans on hold because of the rapid rise of artificial intelligence.
Over the past year, I've been telling stories about the world of AI, and Midjourney is by far the most beloved AI app in the world.
The AI app Midjourney has just surpassed over 10 million users worldwide.
So that's AI-generated art. How bizarre.
But after weeks of scouring YouTube, all so that I can master the art of the prompt.
Hey, do you want to learn how to use Midjourney to create really cool images like this? I'm going to show you how to do all of these images and more in today's ultimate guide to Midjourney prompting.
And generating thousands of photos. But there was still one question about this app that I needed to know. How exactly does Midjourney work?
Put you on to Midjourney, on to Midjourney. Put you on to Midjourney, on to Midjourney. I put on latent, I put on diffusion, I put on latent, I put on confusion. Put you on to Midjourney, on to Midjourney. Put you on to Midjourney, on to Midjourney. I put on latent, I put on diffusion, I put on latent, I put on.
So that's AI-generated art. But how does that work?
When David Holmes was 11 years old, he used to spend his summers stuck on his dad's boat sailing in the Caribbean. You see, David's dad was a traveling dentist that would go from country to country treating clients, which meant that David would spend weeks at a time seeing no one except people that needed dental work and his dad. Now, most kids would have been bored out of their minds, right? Nah, not David. He's busy falling head over heels for his first love, coding. But David wasn't just your average nerd. He had a knack for turning old, boring video games into jaw-dropping spectacles, doing stuff like modding Star Wars characters to shoot rockets from their hands. Now, David wasn't just smart. He was science fair royalty. That's because whenever he would enter into his local science fairs, he'd dominate the competition like a boss, racking up more awards than a battle-hardened general.
I was sort of the science fair kid. I think I've technically won more awards for my county science fair than anybody else ever has, which is a big county, so it's unusual.
Now, David could have just coasted the rest of his life by hacking video games or even being a video game creator, but nah. Instead, he decided to level up, getting a PhD in physics and applied math. He even landed a gig at the Max Planck Institute. Yeah, that Max Planck.
He was the earliest proponent of Einstein's ideas, these crazy ideas of special relativity. Planck embraced them and promoted them and protected young Einstein when he was attacked. So moving into new ideas of how time and space work also have Planck's fingerprints on them.
Tony, after everything you've seen, is anything really
Quantum fluctuation messes with the Planck scale, which then triggers the Deutsch proposition. Can we agree on that?
And then in 2008, Iron Man drops, and David's mind is blown. That's because Tony Stark's fancy 3D modeling has our boy thinking, damn, I can do that.
A computer genius has turned science fiction into a reality. A new company called Leap Motion allows you to control your computer without ever touching it.
And just like that, Leap Motion is born. But here's the thing, Leap Motion was so ahead of its time that it might have actually been from the future. That's because people didn't really want to control their computer with their hands. Besides, the iPhone had just dropped and people were just getting used to touchscreen technology. So after a decade of pushing the product on the people and even turning down Apple twice, Leap Motion failed and was ultimately acquired by Ultra Haptics in 2019. Now, did David sulk? Nah, he just took this as a hard-earned lesson and decided to cook up 2 golden rules for his next venture. That 1, his next product will put users first, and 2, no more outside investors. Now with these rules in his back pocket, David was ready to change the game. But the million-dollar question remained. What's the next big idea? The year is 2020. The entire world is in lockdown and people everywhere is taking this opportunity to start the next phase of their life, especially David. And during this time, David was just like the rest of us, bored out of his mind, surfing the internet and reading random papers posted on Reddit. But out of nowhere, when the world was distracted by other things, David stumbled across a paper that would change his life and the world forever. It was a paper written by 3 UC Berkeley PhDs about the latest breakthrough in machine learning models called Diffusion. Using Diffusion, a machine learning model could generate images from scratch using nothing but text prompts. But despite its groundbreaking nature, the paper mostly went unnoticed, with the exception of OpenAI, because within 6 months of the Diffusion paper being released, OpenAI launched DALL-E.
DALL-E is a new AI system from OpenAI that can take simple text prompts like a koala dunking a basketball and turn them into photorealistic images that have never existed before.
The most well-known of all of your papers so far is on denoising diffusion probabilistic models, and this paper laid the foundation for modern diffusion models, including DALL-E 2 and the first text 3D models.
But after David read the paper, he was fascinated. And with his background in scientific research, he was able to gain early access to DALL-E. And almost immediately, he knew that the potential of this technology was largely untapped. This was it, David thought. This is my next company. This is the future. But learning from his past mistakes, David decided to go about his AI image generation company a lot differently. This time he'd be bootstrapping his new venture without any outside VC funding. But this wasn't an easy choice. After all, he knows he's going to be facing intense competition from some of the richest companies in the world and scrutiny about the ethical considerations of generative AI. But inspired by all of those journeys around the mid-Atlantic as a kid on his father's boat, David gives his company a name and logo that encompasses the early days of his childhood. And thus, Midjourney is born. And almost immediately, David remembered his first rule: to put users first. So now he's determined to get users on board as soon as possible, which is why he decided to launch Midjourney through Discord, because this way he can guarantee a hyper-focus on user feedback and community-driven development. So on July 12th, 2022, Midjourney was launched. But just like Leap Motion, the real test wasn't if David could build a breakout product, but rather if users would embrace it. So on August 9th, less than 30 days after its launch, a freelance writer at The Atlantic used Midjourney to create a photo of Alex Jones for an op-ed. And almost immediately, all hell broke loose. Because instantly, hundreds of artists started voicing their issues with the art, announcing that this was just the beginning of a slippery slope that would eventually take jobs from artists.
My personal artwork that I share on my Instagram page has been used to train AI models.
Then less than 2 weeks later, Stable Diffusion launched, an open source direct competitor to Midjourney, prompting John Oliver to release his infamous piece on AI image generators.
AI image generators. There are a number of them out there now, like DALL-E, Crayon, and Midjourney. Poking around on Midjourney's Discord, you'll discover things like this delightful frog bumblebee, or Judi Dench fighting a centaur on the moon, or what the program decided to do when fed the 2-word prompt, Goose Pilates.
And then boom, the generative AI era had officially begun. Now, fueled by addictive community-driven interface, endless press, and constant talk of AI images and social media timelines, Midjourney ballooned to over 10 million users within its first 6 months, with revenues quickly approaching the 9-figure mark and a company valuation spanning billions. And thanks to David's second rule, the company was completely bootstrapped without VC funding, making David a very rich man. But there was only one problem. You see, people started to see that Midjourney was creating photos that clearly resembled copyrighted works, leaving everybody to ask the same question: where is Midjourney getting this data? Okay, so Midjourney is artificial intelligence, and all AI consists of 3 parts: data, models, and compute. Now we'll get to these other two later, but for now, let's talk data. Because for Midjourney to be able to generate images from so many different prompts, it needs a massive, diverse training data set. Like hundreds of millions of images scraped from the internet, along with their text descriptions. Now Midjourney likely got most of its images and captions from things like alt text that website owners upload with their images to improve their SEO. Now this is how most engineers get these giant data sets, but how does Midjourney do it? Now, according to David, Midjourney gets most of his data from millions of open source data sets. Bruh. But everybody knows that's a lie.
Yeah, that's a huge lie. These AIs are all trained on copyrighted data, obviously.
So you think it's a lie? None of these guys say they're training on copyrighted data.
That's a lie.
It's a lie, straight up.
It's a straight up lie.
Because there's literally no way for these images to perform as well as they do without using millions of copyrighted images. Which is why within 6 months of launching, both Midjourney and Stable Diffusion were slapped with class action lawsuits for copyright infringement.
Getty Images is suing Stable Diffusion at the moment. They train their AI on Getty Images with the watermarks on them, and they've been busted, and they are dead to rights now, and they are going to pay $100 million or more to Getty Images for stealing their content and allowing it to be republished in a commercial setting.
And when you combine the copyright issues with the fact that it's the #1 tool to create fake viral images, like the viral picture of the Pope in the white puffer jacket.
The photo that's fooling everyone. Pope Francis wearing a stylish white puffer jacket. Many are only learning now that it's a fake.
Or the fake photos of Donald Trump being arrested. Bruh. Now, as these lawsuits start to pick up and more fake images start to go viral, it becomes blatantly obvious that Midjourney is a problem, leaving everybody wondering the same thing. How exactly does Midjourney work? In 2007, Dr. Fei-Fei Li, a professor at Caltech, created the most important research project in the history of AI, where she gathered over 20 million photos and meticulously annotated each with text labels embedded in the data. This dataset was called ImageNet and became the foundation for all photo recognition AI, which led to something called automated image captioning. In other words, it's the ability for AI to label images and then turn that text into natural language descriptions. But it was only a matter of time before someone asked a very obvious question. If we can now get natural language descriptions from photos, what happens if we flip that process? So, in 2015, a few researchers out of the University of Toronto released a paper where they tried to answer that very question. They wanted to create novel scenes that didn't exist in real life, and so they asked the computer model to make the photos of a completely made-up scenario. For example, every school bus you've ever seen is most likely yellow. So they asked the model to generate a red one and a green one, and it did. And then they tried a bunch of different prompts like a vintage photo of a dog or a bowl of bananas on the table. Now these photos wasn't anything that you post to your social media page, but they served as a glimpse of what could be possible in the future. And ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you,
the future is now!
You see, the release of diffusion models in 2020 changed everything. Because now if you enter the prompt, a monkey working hard on a typewriter, it doesn't just search through the dataset and find a bunch of related images and copy over most of the pixels. Nah, that's not what Midjourney does. In fact, with most diffusion models, the generated image doesn't come from the training data, but rather from the latent space in the deep learning model. Don't know what latent space is? I got you. Let's say I gave you all of these photos and then told you to describe what's in them. You'd have no problem doing that, right? Now, what if I did this? You see, for ML models, this is what every image looks like. Just a large set of green, red, and blue pixel values. And if this was you, you just have to guess what the picture really was. And guess what? That's literally what AI models do at first. Now, even if you did this 1,000,000+ times, you'd likely never get better at it. But that's not true for Midjourney, because eventually diffusion models get better. Like, way better. Now, how does the model do this? Well, it starts out as a bunch of noise, a staticky image, and then over time it gets better at learning what that image could or should look like. And it does that by looking at all of the different dimensions in the photo. For example, let's say I took these two objects and told you that the #1 way that you can determine the difference between them was through a dimension of color. But what does the model do if I did this? Because now if it only analyzed the photos by colors, it couldn't tell the difference between oranges and footballs. So maybe we'll add a different dimension, like shape. Well, then this happens. So then we add another dimension, like texture, or patterns, or size, and on and on and on. You see, while humans are incapable of seeing in multi-dimensional space, an AI diffusion model is literally built different, because it can see into thousands, and maybe even millions. For example, Midjourney has dimensions that recognizes images from the 1950s, a dimension that notices the details of wetness on the surface, or a dimension that sees the difference between voluminous lighting. These dimensions, or latent space, act like a hidden map to the image, and the words that you enter into the prompt are like the directions, telling the computer where to go. And that's where Midjourney's diffusion model comes in, because it acts like a car that takes you to that final destination of a photo. Because all diffusion models start out as noise, and then over a series of iterations, it evolves into something that makes sense to a human. And since the entire process is random, the model will never return the same image for the same prompt. Which is why if you take the same prompt to a different model like DALL-E, or even a different version of Midjourney itself, you'll get a completely different result there too, because you're in a different latent space. But even though this is the process that generates the photo, the real magic happens afterward, with the help of another AI model called Transformers.
Autobots, roll out. We roll.
Nah, not those Transformers. I'm talking about the AI model that's used to read and make sense of a lot of text, which is important because Midjourney takes all the text data used to generate the photos and combines it with the positive human feedback you're giving it when you decide to upgrade your original photo. Because with each click, you're literally helping the computer learn which generation was best, and in turn, it will help create even more dimensions in its latent space for the next prompt to navigate to, leading to better and better outputs on the same exact prompt. And when you combine the fact that Midjourney is adding more and more pictures to its training dataset every day with all of this human feedback Midjourney is getting through Discord, it creates a very powerful loop that makes Midjourney's AI model even stronger, which is why it's the world's best AI photo generator. But despite all of the ethical, technological, and financial challenges, Midjourney remains the most loved AI tool in the world, and thanks to the experience and vision of its founder, David Holmes. Midjourney's secret to success is nothing short of magical, whether it's their unique approach to gathering data, or the infinite dimensions of latent space in its diffusion model, or its addictive focus on the user experience. Midjourney is clearly just getting started on shaping our future. Because as Midjourney has showed us, creating digital dreams comes with a real price tag. And for Midjourney, the voyage ahead is as unpredictable as the photos they create.
Put you on to Midjourney, on to Midjourney. Put you on to Midjourney, on to Midjourney. I put on